Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to have to leave a little bit early because I need to go preside. But I want to take the opportunity, and really a privilege, to introduce one of my constituents who's a witness today, a great Alaska, Sarah Lukien. Sarah has been working to address legacy contamination and cleanup of former federal sites throughout Alaska for many years, and I want to express my deep appreciation and the committee's for your willingness to travel so far to provide insights and unique points of view coming from Alaska. Sarah hails from Point Lyons, Alaska, which is a remote native village on Kodiak Island. Now, for my colleagues who've never been to Alaska, I want to say, and I'm sorry, Senator Booker already left, Kodiak Island is about the size of New Jersey, and it is a magical place with salmon abundance and the biggest brown bears on the planet Earth. So we want to encourage you all to come out to that wonderful place and see our great state. Sarah is a shareholder and member of the board of directors of Afognak Native Corporation and a shareholder of Koniag Incorporation. She's an enrolled tribal member of the native village of Afognak and native village of Port Lyons, and she has spent years advocating for the cleanup of contaminated sites throughout Alaska, but the sites particularly on Alaska Native Corporation lands. She earned a bachelor's degree and master's degree from the University of Alaska. So, Mr. Chairman, I am very excited to have her here, and I appreciate you and the committee inviting her. And again, Sarah, thank you for traveling literally thousands of miles to attend this hearing. I know we're going to learn a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to ask a few questions before I go to preside. I do want to associate my initial remarks with what Senator Carper mentioned at the outset of his remarks. As this committee knows, I was a strong supporter of Administrator Pruitt, and I'm glad to see him in the position that he's in. He did make commitments to many of us during the confirmation process on certain issues that weren't reflected in the president's budget. And I think that's a bit of an issue from my perspective. You make commitments in a private setting, meetings, or in a public hearing. It's an important deal when you're trying to get confirmed, and we expect those commitments to be kept. So I think that's a message I want to make sure the EPA hears loud and clearly. Ms. Lukien, thank you very much for your testimony. I want to raise a couple issues that relate to your testimony and what you talked about. The one seems to be a very difficult kind of catch-22, where Alaska Native corporations receive land from the federal government. It's contaminated, and then all of a sudden, the Native corporations who are trying to develop this land — it's very difficult to develop any land economically when it's contaminated — not only don't have the opportunity to develop the land for economic opportunity, but all of a sudden are looking like they're on the hook for CERCLA liability. So it's kind of a double whammy. The land is supposed to be given — the part of the deal of ANCSA was to enable Alaska Natives to develop their land economically. You can't do that because it's contaminated. And B, now the feds are telling you that you're liable. So it's almost like a lose-lose as opposed to a win-win. Can you talk about that a little bit more, and how we in the Congress could fix that, which is clearly, from my perspective, a double unfair situation to you and the Alaska Native people you're representing?
Senator, thank you very much for the question. So regarding CERCLA, there's a section called Section 107A, and it basically says that we're on the hook to clean up any pre-existing sites. And what we found, because ANCs are currently under federal law legally liable to clean up this federally caused pre-existing contamination, that some ANCs are unwilling to come forward and say, we have a contaminated site on our lands and it needs to be cleaned up. Instead, they're living with that contamination and not notifying the proper authorities. Because basically they're afraid they're going to have to pay for this cleanup and they can't afford to do so. EPA does have a policy that says it won't pursue cleanup under Section 107A. However, that policy does not create any legal rights for Alaska Native corporations, and the EPA did reserve the right to depart from that policy on a case-by-case basis. So although the policy exists, it's not, exclusively helpful.
So you can't rely on it?
We cannot rely on that policy currently. And so it's really my recommendation and the recommendation of Alaska Native corporations that Congress provide Alaska Native corporations protection under the law from Section 107A of CERCLA.
Well, I think that would be something that would be very fair, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to work with you and Senator Carper and other members of the committee to try and work on something like that where, again, it seems to me the point of ANCSA was to help promote the economic opportunities for Alaska Native people, and this kind of loophole, I guess, undermines that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. Senator Carper.